In 1958, Detroit seemed to live in a delirium of metal and shine. The unwritten order was simple: more steel, more chrome, more length, more excess. And no one took this as far and paid as dearly as Ford. This is where our story begins, the $1 billion car. Not a single model, but an entire product and style project that mixed excessive steel mountains of chrome and a gigantic engineering gamble that almost fell flat when economic reality came knocking. Today, you will understand how the exaggeration of 1958 nearly sunk Ford, why this mistake still haunts the industry, and what it reveals about the dark side of big engineering decisions. Let us take it step by step. In the mid-50s, Ford was obsessed with one thing: beating Chevrolet for market leadership at any cost. It was the era of Harley Earl at GM, of Cadillacs with fins so large they looked like airplanes, and of sedans so loaded with chrome that some journalists would later call them chromemobiles, true metallic temples on wheels. Ford did not want to be left behind. For the 1958 model year, the brand played hard. The Ford line was redesigned, including the Fairlane, the Custom, and especially the retractable Fairlane 500 Skyliner, with that hardtop roof that folded entirely into the trunk, a costly, complex, and heavy mechanical show. More steel in the structure, more reinforcements, more length. Chroming everywhere. The grille trim, moldings, taillights, everything gleaming. The problem? The economic moment could not have been worse. Between 1957 and 1958, the United States entered one of the most painful post-war recessions. Unemployment was close to 7%. Industrial production was falling, and car sales plummeted more than 30% in the 1958 model year. In other words, while Ford was launching some of the most expensive cars to produce in its history, the average American was starting to tighten their belt. When we talk about the $1 billion car, we are talking about an entire package of decisions: the Edsel program, plus the 1958 Ford line. The Edsel officially launched in September 1957 for the 1958 model year as the ultimate symbol of this gamble. Ford spent nearly 10 years planning the new car, spent about $250 million at the time on development, tooling, and marketing, something between $2.7 and $3.8 billion in current values, depending on the calculation methodology. Created an entire division just for it, with dedicated dealer networks, advertising, and engineering. Some automotive historians call the Edsel the most expensive consumer product ever developed until then. Now combine this with the redesigned and more expensive to build 58 Ford line. Competition from GM, which also released larger, heavier, chrome-filled cars. The recession crushing demand for large cars. It is no exaggeration to say that, summing up investment, tooling, advertising, and losses, Ford was playing with something that in current values approaches a multi-billion-dollar mistake. From a technical point of view, what Ford did in 1958 was a kind of showroom engineering. The Fairlane 500 Skyliner is the best example, a retractable hardtop convertible that was mechanically fascinating, electrical systems, actuators, articulated arms, position sensors, all of this in 1958. But this meant enormous weight, more steel in the structure to support the roof and the rear opening. Absurd complexity, something that ordinary mechanics were afraid to touch. High production cost in a year, when customers wanted the exact opposite, something cheaper and simpler. The Edsel, in turn, had a platform shared with Ford and Mercury, but with exclusive panels, unique moldings, trim, grille taillights, all representing new stampings, new molds, new chromed parts, each costing a small fortune in tooling. Polarizing style with the famous horseshoe or toilet seat grille, which alienated part of the public. In short, a lot of steel, a lot of chrome, a lot of complexity in a market that suddenly wanted economy and discretion. It is as if a company spent billions today to launch the heaviest, most ostentatious, and most expensive smartphone precisely in the year everyone loses their job and starts buying refurbished basic models. In the minds of Ford executives, the Edsel would be a cannon shot. The initial goal about 200,000 units per year. Reality, 109,466 units sold, summing all years from 1957 to 1959, less than 1% of the market during that period. Meanwhile, the 58 Ford line as a whole also suffered. In a year of automotive recession, Ford sales fell, and Chevrolet opened up a lead of about 150,000 cars in the American market. From a financial perspective, Ford is estimated to have lost about $350 million at the time, with the Edsel summing development, production, and closing the division around $3.8 billion in today's money. This is without counting the extra tooling and production costs of the heavier and chromed 1958 regular line. The company did not go broke. Because of this, it was too big to fall with just one project. But internally, it was such a shock that the episode became a case study in business schools and a classic symbol of a mega investment that the market did not ask for. This is where the term $1 billion car makes narrative sense, not as exact accounting data, but as the sum of all the decisions in steel chrome style and engineering that drained an absurd volume of capital for meager results. What makes this case perfect for our niche is precisely the tension between engineering and reality. From a design point of view, the Skyliner was a mechanical prodigy. The Edsel had legitimate technologies and solutions, such as powerful engines, push-button transmission on the steering wheel, and advanced equipment for the time. The chrome bath followed the aesthetic logic of the 50s. The more it shone, the more premium it looked. From the point of view of the real world in 1958, the average consumer was starting to worry about payments, fuel consumption, and maintenance. The recession was tearing down confidence and credit. Taste was starting to migrate little by little to more compact and discreet cars, a trend that would explode in the 60s with compacts like the Falcon, the Corvair, and the Valiant. In other words, Ford delivered engineering and design from the height of prosperity right into the mouth of a crisis. And then, what should have been the maximum showcase of the company's capacity became a monument to excess. Excess chrome, excess steel, excess confidence in its own ability to shape public taste, excess money bet at the wrong time. The Edsel fiasco and the financial weight of the 1958 line left deep scars within Ford. Analysts and historians point to some direct consequences, more caution with new divisions. After the Edsel, the idea of creating an entirely new brand with dedicated dealer networks, marketing, and engineering became taboo for decades within Ford. Shift of focus to compacts and efficiency. The 1958 crisis helped pave the road for projects like the Ford Falcon in the early 60s, a simpler, smaller car designed for the new consumer who distrusted gigantic chrome and huge sedans. Bitter lesson about over-engineering without demand. The Skyliner. The excess chrome and the Edsel division itself showed that brilliant engineering on paper is not enough. Without market timing, without economic reading, without understanding what people really want and can afford, the project becomes an anchor. If you look at Ford today in the midst of the era of hybrid and electric SUVs, you can see a distant echo of that lesson. Global platforms reduced complexity. Fewer body variations, all trying to avoid repeating the 1 billion mistake. Curiously, what was a financial disaster eventually became gold for collectors. Well-preserved Edsels are today cult pieces, precisely because they represent one of the biggest failed moonshots in automotive history. The super-chromed 58 Fords, especially the Fairlane 500 Skyliner, have become icons of a period when excess was not only allowed, but desired. For an engineering enthusiast, looking at these cars is like opening a time capsule of an era where material cost seemed infinite, oil seemed eternal, safety standards were almost non-existent, and project common sense could be sacrificed in the name of visual impact on the showroom. Today, however, it is enough to sum the numbers. The hundreds of millions lost the recession, the change in public taste, to understand why so many people refer to the episode as the $1 billion car that almost sunk Ford. the 1958 Ford, and the price of excess. Ultimately, the story of 1958 is not just about an ugly car, a strange front end, or an excess of chrome. It is about the moment a giant automaker ignored economic signs, bet fortunes on steel shine and show, and discovered in the most painful way possible that the market does not forgive excess when the money runs out. The $1 billion car is the sum of all these decisions: Edsel, Skyliner, chroming expensive platforms, aggressive marketing, all placed in a recession scenario. And perhaps this is the great lesson for automotive engineering today. It does not matter if you build the most impressive machine in the world if the world at that moment is not willing to pay for it. Now, I want to know from you, if you could choose one of these symbols of 1958 excess to keep in your garage, a fully loaded Edsel or a retractable Ford Fairlane 500 Skyliner, which one would you choose? Tell us in the comments below. And if you enjoy stories where engineering fights with reality and sometimes loses badly, leave your like and subscribe to Remember That Car. In the next video, we will explore another forgotten chapter where a perfect project on paper almost made a Detroit giant collapse.